Could you imagine someone who's never imbibed in alcohol, hates the thought of anyone else being able to consume alcohol, being in position of determining who can consume alcohol, under what circumstances, when and where? It would instantly be considered extreme bias, unfair, flat out wrong. How can someone who already has an extreme bias against someone else using alcohol be considered to be the proper one to regulate it, to make laws on all other people, which they have no right? Does anyone even have such a right to tell people the restrictions all others must follow on the manufacturing, sale, consumption of alcohol, especially when appointed, not elected, or face fines, even prison, have their life destroyed? Consider this. Consider the same individual that using tax money to have public service commercials made, portraying someone with a martini as if it is a wild thing, as if having and drinking a martini is extremely counterculture, or a beer. It would be laughed at. It would be a national embarrassment to the individual behind it. Then would be the questions of how much money was spent. Government never spends lightly. Such a project, an infomercial, would have cost hundreds of millions spent. A great portion of that funding funneled to the same people who profit from the people who have been deemed to have broken the law. And that goes all the way from entire cop companies to courts, government employees, more jails and prisons, and of course, as it seems to be always the case in America, all for profit. From publicly funded public defenders to courts, all entirely dependent on outdated, obsolete, and proven wrong regulations to enrich themselves, their careers, even the careers of their children. Yet, we are seeing exactly this from what? CNN employees showing what idiots they are, and doing so on national TV. Like people who consume alcohol, people who use cannabis do not act like what was seen on CNN. People who use cannabis do so the same way people use alcohol. Always that there is a time and a place, almost always with at least a modicum of maturity. The few, and it is a very few, who get some cannabis and act like that, what we've seen on CNN, are typically early teens and preteens. Those who can't see how stupid they are, acting, pretending like they are cool. That kind of conduct used to be seen at secret teenage parties. Maybe it still is. Now it's only seen on CNN. What people do not know is the facts and history on cannabis. Why was it made illegal in the first place? That reason has absolutely nothing to do with cannabis being considered a drug. Cannabis was made illegal to fill the pockets and make extremely rich and powerful a small group of people who profited on products normally, cheaply, efficiently, and cleanly made and manufactured from cannabis or hemp, forcing America to use and purchase their products made from wood and petrochemicals. What we see on TV, in public media, and arenas is always the case where both sides are wrong. This form of debate purposely done to make sure the public never gets the facts. Then the public takes this issue like a ball tossed out to them and fights over it. Both sides of the public debate are always wrong. Just never let the people find this out. What if the people found out most every president not only grew, but used cannabis regularly? Abraham Lincoln wrote a letter to a pipe manufacturer on how well their pipe worked and how he liked to use it to smoke sweet hemp on his porch in evening hours. What if people found out it was law to grow hemp or cannabis in the U.S., that the newly formed nation depended on the people growing hemp or cannabis to economically thrive? Not so the world could all get high, but because of the many products, hemp was the main ingredient in manufacturing, from cheap and durable paper, the same paper the Constitution is written on and almost every Bible uses, hemp paper, clothing that does not shrink and wear out like cotton does. If people could buy and make clothing that lasted, this would affect the profits of the major clothing industries, including cotton growing and production. Your owners are not going to allow you to buy something that actually works and lasts. Your owners demand you work, you spend your money on their products to enrich them and them alone. What if people learned cannabis or hemp was so important that every sail and every boat and ship was made from hemp fabric, that every Conestoga wagon had a hemp fabric cover, or every tent and so much more was made from hemp, that hemp provided a most healthy cooking oil, the crushed seed used for food and feed? What if people learned every single thing they have ever been told about cannabis was a lie? Lies they believed to make sure a tiny few remained extremely rich and powerful. What if people learned that usually every cannabis license today is from one or a corporation that holds a monopoly on that license on cannabis growing, sale, and use, so that they profit on every gram sold? What if the public learned people using cannabis, unlike and the exact opposite of alcohol, become extremely cautious and careful. That if you encounter someone using cannabis driving, they are not racing down the highway like a drunk does, but are usually driving very slow and are wary of intersections. Can't let the public learn this. If the public learned this, it would change everything they've been told about cannabis, and that is the major problem. People who do not have a clue on the facts of cannabis are the ones speaking out on it, against it, and almost always profiting from keeping it illegal. What if the people found out in every early Bible hemp is deemed as one of the 7 gifts God gave Noah, that they have been calling it devil's weed all this time? The primary question no one asks is, who owns you? Who owns your body? Do you own your body, or does the state or your neighbor? Do you own their bodies? Can you decide when and how they are allowed to consume alcohol? Or are you limited to being owned like they are, only allowed to do what your owners decide? Why is it people who have absolutely no power or authority deem themselves to be that, and then turn and tell everyone else what conduct they approve of, all based on beliefs that are not true or even real, but the neighbor across the street decides they are authority over everyone else? They do it to make themselves feel superior. When fact is, it makes them extremely inferior. Any self-respecting individual acknowledges and recognizes the rights of others, the right to decide what they can put into their body, respects other people. It is those who have no respect, no concept of respect, that self-appoint themselves as sheepdogs over all others. All others, obviously, must be under them. If the people ever took time to learn the real history of cannabis, the facts, they would also learn that they have been had. They have been lied to, and that a small group of self-appointed overlords have not only made themselves extremely obscenely rich, they have made themselves obscenely powerful by simply making people believe what they've been told as law over them, then making those people hold that same law over others, all of what? Belief. Every debate, argument on cannabis is not about right or wrong, not about the rights of people, but on money and power. Money and power taken from you. Know this, every nation that has decriminalized all drugs has seen major and drastic drops in the use. Same with drug-related crimes, but no one dares address this on public media, none dare on national TV. Because those in power and profiting on the unlawful prohibition of cannabis, and it is unlawful. Remember, alcohol prohibition was only able to take place when it was amended into the Constitution, and that had nothing to do with anything more than forcing America to convert to Rockefeller petroleum products. There is no cannabis prohibition in the Constitution, because those profiting on this unlawful prohibition do not want fewer courts, fewer jails, fewer prisons, fewer people's lives ruined. They want more, because it keeps them rich and it keeps them in power over you.